Hello everyone. 3rd of April, about 1 o'clock Moscow time, middle of the day, and second news update for our Patreon and Boosting communities. Although, if I may, I will make shorter episode from this update, and I will publish that video on YouTube and Rumble. Also, as a sort of advertising for my Patreon and Boosty pages. Hopefully it will work, and more people from our bigger community will consider to join us on Patreon. That will be great support for my work and this project, of course. And if you have watched first update today, probably you noticed that time really, to me, fly, and I did not notice. But quite a number of news was left when I ended the update, and I definitely want to address these topics because it is important. So much stuff is happening in the world that sometimes we or public in general might miss some even bigger developments, especially if mainstream media is trying to ignore the risks. And in this particular case, I'm talking about reports in some media outlets that US is accelerating preparations for strikes on Iran. Dear friends, let me turn the camera and show you what I see right now. Moscow River. And this is island. Serebryny Bor is located here. So, who would think while watching all these tree lines and in park area that half an hour away from here on a car and you are in central Moscow. Of course, if there is no traffic jams, which is almost always the case, at least on some main streets. But anyways, I divert. So, number of media outlets reported about accelerating preparations of the United States for hostilities towards Iran. It's up to us. Will we take these reports for face value or with some skepticism? But I think in any case, it's still worth to pay some attention to it. And for example, we have this report from Daily Mail. This is a tabloid. We should keep that in mind. But still, the US is planning to strike Iranian nuclear facilities in a few weeks. The Daily Mail reports citing sources in Israel. This should, and we have a quote here, this should have been done a long time ago. It's time to put an end to it. A senior Israeli government source told the newspaper. He also called US President Donald Trump's demand for Iran to conclude a new nuclear deal necessary condition for stability in Israel and the world. According to the newspaper source, in Israeli diplomatic circles, Donald Trump's take provides the best moment to deal with Iran. Donald Trump's position in regards to region, Israel, Iran, provides a best moment to deal with Iran, and there will be no other opportunities. So, again, it's up to us. Will we take this information on face value or not? But I don't think Daily Mail made up entire story about sources that are well informed or informed enough to know that US is preparing to at least be in a position of launching major strikes on Iran in a couple of weeks' time. at least indirect indicators definitely are in place. First of all, strong statements, actually threats from Trump himself, US president. He's openly saying that he will bomb Iran if Tehran will not accept whatever US has proposed in terms of nuclear deal. And also we have reports about deployment of additional strike groups of US Navy into the region. And also deployment of strategic bombers into Diego Garcia Island in the Indian Ocean, which is in striking distance for US strategic bombers to take actions against Iran. So at least indirect indicators definitely are there. And this is not all. Another report is concluding that US intends to defeat Iran by autumn if nuclear deal is rejected. United States expects to end military operations in Iran by autumn if Tehran does not agree to the nuclear deal. The Daily Express newspaper writes, citing sources in American administration, and we have a quote here: Iran will disappear by September, the source told the publication. Yet again, I mean, not just a strong statement, but also extremely delusional. Iran is not going to disappear, not by September this year, not by September of any other year, as long as this world exists, I guess. But statement is definitely should vary public worldwide, because any large scale or any basically scale attack on Iran by US or Israel will of course provoke countermeasures from Iranian side, and it's not just a regional war may erupt in the Middle East, but which will be tragedy on its own, of course. But also, as I said many times before, in case of attack on Iran, Tehran will have every opportunity to shut down navigation into Hormuz Strait and block basically navigation in the Persian Gulf, which will have a huge impact on energy markets and ultimately on world economy for understandable reasons. And despite this, I'm afraid the US leadership is quite determined to go ahead with this military aggression against Iran. There are some, I mean, we have quite indicators that Trump's administration will act extremely hostile towards many countries, including Iran, and we are at that point now when I guess some serious steps will be taken. And I guess my long-term prediction that Western ruling class wants to provoke regional war, major war in the Middle East to cut off China from regional energy sources. I mean, seems like at least is destined to become true, because the situation is clearly developing in that direction, which is extremely dangerous. And I find it difficult to understand why world communities are kind of silent on this matter. I mean, once missiles are launched, guns are firing, it's going to be just too late to influence anything really. But well, this is the situation, and once again, we should keep, we should take these reports from these tabloids with a pinch of salt. But yet again, I have some doubts that they just created these stories, and they never talked to any sources on Israel or into US among high-ranking officials. Probably this information has some solid ground, And yet again, I mean, there are indirect indicators, isn't it, that something big is in preparations in regards to Iran and the Middle East in general. And maybe this is why yesterday, as like wildfire, information starts spreading on internet that Iran had shut down its airspace and their militaries were on high alert. I reported about this news because I saw it on not just Telegram channels and other sources, but also on the pages of media outlets. Although later on this information was dismissed by Iranian side, and the information was actually dismissed by independent sources also that were monitoring, for example, skies over the Iran, and no flights were cancelled of civilian planes, nothing like that. So I guess the information was either intentional attempt to spread there some fake news or mistake on part of whomever initiated that news, but fact itself that this information spread like wildfire clearly indicates that at least some part of public in this world sees what is going on in Middle East and expects serious escalation. And dear friends, I did film this Is-2, legendary Is-2 tank quite a few times before. This is a monument here on Serebrini Bor, which translates as a silver forestry. And, you know, and all around Moscow and Russia, by the way, there are monuments, memorials to commemorate heroism and sacrifice of the generation of my grandfather who fight and fight hard for all of us to exist basically. And so, yes, serious developments are happening in the Middle East, and unfortunately, attention of MSM is directed on some other side, as if it's nothing. Today, everybody, of course, talking about this tariffs that US imposed on the rest of the world as a retaliatory measure. Tomorrow, some other topic will be, in a discussion. And meanwhile, you know, missiles might start flying, and at that point, it is just too late. So I wanted to highlight these developments in this update. Unfortunately, today in the first update, I just had no time really to continue to report about all the news that I bookmarked, and so at least I will talk about it in this update, and I will publish this video, this part of this update on YouTube and Rumble. Also, because it is important, I think it is important to pay attention to the developments in the Middle East. And when it comes to that region, this is not all, because yesterday, for example, yesterday evening, Israel conducted massive airstrikes on Syria, and there are a number of bases, air bases or other military facilities were bombed, including ones, as far as I understand, that Turkey wants to use to deploy its own air force and militaries, basically. And well, seems like yet another my prediction is going to become true, because I said, if you remember, I said straight away when regime change happened in Syria that well, most likely Turkey and Israel will end up on the opposite side of the barricades, and relationships between the two will only deteriorate because this regime in Syria now is a proxy regime of Turkey, right? And therefore, Ankara hardly can ignore constant strikes of Israel on Syria, occupation of Syrian territories, because Turkey wants to be in charge there, right? Turkish leadership. So therefore, I think Israel and Turkey are getting closer and closer to a point of direct, potentially military hostilities. And this is also, of course, extremely dangerous because both countries are military powers. Turkey is a NATO member state. Israel is a strategical ally of the US and the collective West in general. So, yes, yet another reason to pay attention to this part of the world, because if World War III might start from any point on this planet, and one of those points definitely are in the Middle East, potentially Ukraine, Baltics, Middle East, and Taiwan. I guess this is 4 points where potentially global war might be ignited. Hello everyone, if you find this video informative and interesting, if you like my work in general, please consider to support this independent media project from Russia. You can do it through several means, through PayPal with donations, or by subscribing to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where you can have access to full news updates. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Thank you.